Okay, I'm super excited today. Thank you for joining me. My name is Karen A. here in Jerusalem. Yes, I am in my car. I just did the school run, but we will go to any length. So that's it. School run, supermarket run, and recovery is on the menu all day, every day is the soup du jour. We are here at Reco12, the Afro-Euro meeting. By the way, friends and spiritual cartellers there in the 4-4, we are here every Friday at 8 a.m. UK time. Please join us. Please reach out to me if you would like to speak on this meeting. We need more recovery stories. We're a fellowship of people who have recovered through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We have people here from all fellowships, all addictions, all afflictions, walking this path of recovery together. If you'd like to check out our website and some of our podcasts, you can go to Reco12.com. And if you'd like to contribute to Seventh Tradition, which helps cover the costs of Zoom and all the technical stuff, that's Reco12.com/support. I'm going to put my number in the chat. Again, it's Karen A. from Jerusalem. If you'd like to speak on here, I want to have you. August is open. I think the second week in August. September, we're booking up, but we're taking speakers. You could do your step 12 here and help us grow this fellowship in this time zone. Help us grow recovery in the Afro-Euro time zone. Without further ado, it is my honor and my privilege to invite and host with us here Katie R. Katie R. rolls with the spiritual cartel. Yeah, spiritual cartel is in the house. And yeah, she took it seriously when the Big Book told her to go out and create the fellowship she craves and get her next 100. And you might just be 101, 102, 103, but we're all down with the spiritual cartel today. Katie R., you're going to have 30 minutes to tell us about yourself, share your recovery story, what it was like, what it's like today, how you work this program, of course, how you work with others as part of this 12-step lifestyle, and anything else that's in your heart and in your soul. And then after about 30 minutes, we're not super strict. When you feel you've said enough, we'll take Q&A. We'll take Q&A live. Anyone here, if you have questions as Katie's going, just write them down in the chat. We'll voice them after she's done sharing, but you can write them down or you'll forget them. If there's interesting stuff you want to dive deep with her. And then after we do the Q&A, I'll let you know when time's up, and you will pray us out with the prayer of your choice. Welcome, Katie R. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Karen. Thank you for inviting me here this morning to come and be on this platform. It is an absolute privilege to be here with you this morning. I'm Katie R, and I'm a grateful recovered addict today. Do you know what? I am going to pray to get me out of the way, because you know what? Sometimes I can come onto a meeting and I'm fired up and I'm ready and I know what I'm going to say. And other times I can come on and I can be full of fear. You know, we're full of fear. We drive ourselves through fear, people in addiction. So I'm just going to pray myself in to get myself out of the way so then I can bring something to you guys this morning. God, help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about others, everything I think I know about the 12-step program, the fellowship, the meeting, the people in the meeting, so I can have a new experience and an open mind. God, help me see the truth. Amen. Look at that beautiful prayer that we can just do together. Like, we can come in and we can put our hands together, we can calm ourselves, and we can just have that beautiful prayer. And do you know what? If you would have said to me 2-3 years ago, you're going to be on Zoom, you're going to be doing podcasts, you're going to be sharing your story, your experience, your strength and hope, and you're going to be praying, I would have thought you was absolutely insane. Do you know what? My life, it tells us in the book, doesn't it? Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like. What did I used to be like? I was insane. I was crazy. I was off key. I was violent. I was a terrible mum. I was just like all the things that I'm not today. And this is like through having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps. And that's the subject that I picked today. You know what? I'm going to just take us into the book, because this is where the magic comes alive, you know, and then I'll go backwards and forwards through my journey as we go along. We just go to page 275. And you know what? Halfway down the book, it says AA is not a plan for recovery that can be finished and done with. And what I get from that is that, we have to come in, and this is a bridge for living. This is a program of recovery that we've got to do for life. This is something that I have to keep doing and that I have to keep growing in spiritually, conditioning myself spiritually for me to be able to come in, to grow, to learn, to remain teachable, to be able to come to you guys and give my story. It goes on to say it's a way of life. It is a way of life. When we come in here, we're beaten, we're broken, we're down. Some of us are smashed to pieces, some hospitalisation, institutions, jails. Jails wasn't part of my story, it was part of my husband. So I've got a lot of experience around all of this stuff. Again, being in active addiction, my husband, relapse is not part of my story, but it is he. So I can bring my experience to you guys today. It then tells us, that these things are a challenge and that they're contained within the principles and that we've got to keep doing this stuff. Principles in all our affairs. We've got 12 steps, and behind those 12 steps, we have 12 principles: honesty, hope, faith, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, love, forgiveness, discipline. Did I have discipline? When it says how I used to be like, hell no, had no discipline. The discipline I had was to go out and get drink and drugs, yes. Awareness. I was never aware of anything around me, especially my surroundings. Today, I'm aware of the sun. I'm aware of the clouds. I'm aware that if I sit in the park and close my eyes, I can hear the children in the background. I can hear the birds going over. I can hear people bing, bing on their bikes, as they're driving through that park. Awareness. All that kind of stuff. I wasn't aware. Today, I've got a new set of glasses, a new set of lenses where I see the world in a different place. And this is through having that spiritual awakening, that beautiful spiritual awakening that we have through these steps. I love this stuff. I absolutely love this stuff. The last principle, 12, service. How can I be of service? How can I be of maximum service? How can I help others? What is it that I do? I'm going to take you back to what it used to be like. So I was born in 1981. I've got 3 kids, stepdaughter who's 30, Marcus is 22, and Bells is 15. And all of them kids are a product of their environment through what they've seen, through what they've heard, through growing up. And, I used my first drug at the age of probably around about 12. And then at 13, I had my first crack pipe on a plastic bottle within a park at the back of my mum's estate. It was a park that my mum told me never to go to. Don't go to that park because users used to be there. And I suffer with this thing, addiction. This hole in my soul that I want to change the way I feel. I want to put something in me to change the way I think, to change the way I behave because I don't like what I'm about. And, through the years of this drug addiction that I had, which I suffer with, that mental obsession, that spiritual malady, the spiritual malady being that sickness, irritable, restless, discontent. And then when I feel like that, I have the mad obsession, the mental obsession in my head, where I can't tell the truth and I can't tell the false between my behaviours, between my actions, unable to tell the truth, unable to recognise. And then what I do is I take that first drink, that first pipe, that first pill, that first joint, that first sniff to get that ease and comfort that brings us, when we have it and you go, oh, and you feel like you've arrived, you feel comfortable. It sets off the physical allergy, the phenomenon of craving, which when I start, I don't know when I'm going to stop, which takes me to that spree, a day, a week, a month, a year. When am I coming back? I don't know. I emerge remorsefully from that spree. And at that moment, I come back and say to my children, who I've just spoke of, I'm never going to do that again. My step one experience is like this for me. My daughter's 11 years of age. I've had a great day. Everything's going well, and I'm one of these maskers that post things on Facebook. My kids have got these trainers. I've done this to my house. The shopping's done. Look at my fridge. Look at my cupboards. Woohoo, everything's great. But you know what happens? The 11-year-old girl says to me, Mum, are you going to make these Peppa Pig cakes with me? And I say to her, of course I am, babe, because everything's going good. That's Kate feeling fine. And I go out of my house and I've cakes are on the side and I turn right. And over on the left is the people that sit in the little community that are drinking, taking drugs, having a party. It all looks great and everything's happy over there. The sun's shining. And I say, I'm not going over there. I'm going to go to Tesco's. I'm going to get the rest of the stuff that I need and I'm going to get back because I need to make these cakes with my daughter. And you know what? The mental obsession's on me. I could go over and I could have one. I know I could get back for these cakes, just one, just a little chat, and then I'll get back. And then my head says, you can't do that. You can't have one cake. You know where this is leading. And it's that battle in my mind. Yes, no, can I, can't I? You know, all that crazy stuff that we have going on in our heads. And before I got back from Tesco's, I'm already sitting down on that seat. I've took one drink and straight away I'm off to the races. And you know what? I'm then getting the calls, you know, from my son. Where are you, Mum? Bella's waiting for these cakes to be done. My eldest daughter, Mum, what is going on? When you coming home? And then it gets to the point where I switch the phone off, you know, and then the party really starts. And then I've got to do that walk of shame back a day or 2 days later to look at my daughter's face because I've not made it home to do them cakes. Because when I get that obsession and that obsession is on me, I don't know how to stop that. I haven't got a program at that stage. I've not been through the 12 steps. So, you know, this is the stuff that happens. And I'm never complacent around this stuff. I always have that first step experience in the front of my mind, because if I don't, you know, I know that I'm so far from 12 back to 1 and I can be out of that door. It's beautiful, this stuff, how it works. It really, really is. But that is my step 1 experience that I know I will use and drink and pick up a drug again, because I'm powerless and I'm unmanageable. And why am I powerless? You know, because I can't do this on my own will. No resolutions, no gyms, no kids, no nothing will stop me from having that obsession to want to pick up a drink and drug. But today, with this program, I don't have the obsession. That's gone. It's lifted. I said I was recovered. Yes, I'm recovered from the obsession to want to pick up a drink and drug. However, I'm a still recovering human being. You know, I have to do this stuff every single day of my life. I need to be recovering. What do I need to do in that stuff to recover? We have to pick up this book. We have to work these steps. You know, step 2, came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I was insane. But when I come in and I get that little bit of power, my sponsor said to me, and I come in, Katie, do you have a higher power? And it was just like the conversations that we was having. She said, if you don't believe in a higher power, she was clean. She was 6 years clean. So it was like, do you know what? She's got this stuff. I believe she believes. So just for now, I'm going to believe that she believes, and that will carry me through. You know, this God thing that we come to, God conscious contact. God is in my life every single day today. I wake up in the morning. The first thing I do is put my hands together and I say, thanks, God. Thanks for waking me up clean and sober today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of having my children back in my life. If I rewind back to 2021, when my drug addiction had gone through the stages of fun at that age, you know, going to the party scene, taking pills, going out, raving back in the 90s, a lot of fun came out of my using, but it progressed very, very quickly to the point where I couldn't function without putting substances into my body. And it really quickly changed. Like I say, back in 2021, there was an incident that happened in my home, and my son ended up having to go on the run for attempted murder. My husband was on his way to hospital. I didn't know if he was going to live or die. And then I had social services on me wanting to take my children away from me. My youngest Belle had to go to my neighbours. You know, she stepped up for me as a friend, as a mum. She took charge of Belle's for me. And during that moment of everything that had happened, my whole life had come crashing down. They talk about surrender, don't they? You know, surrender is actually not even appearing in the big book of AA. However, when we do surrender, which is the daily spiritual practice to live our life with this God conscious contact, it's amazing. You know, I had to concede. That's what I had to do. I had to concede to the fact that I was in denial for such a long time about something that I'd always lied about. I admitted, you know, that I'm powerless and I'm unmanageable. My life's become unmanageable. I concede to the fact that I'm an addict, something that I'd kept a secret, lied for a long, long time. You know, this stuff is just amazing. I'm so grateful to CA. I'm so grateful to my fellas. I'm so grateful to God. Rarely have we seen a person fail. We've thoroughly followed our path. Page 58, it tells us, doesn't it, that, you know, if you follow this stuff and you do these things, you don't have to fail. There was a writing up in 1978 in the Grapevine. It's a magazine, and you can Google search it. But there was a big thing about not having the word rarely and having the word never. And yeah, there was a lot of controversy around it. But, you know, if you swap that, never have we seen a person fail. We've thoroughly followed our path. It is 100% proof that if you do this stuff, you never have to use a drink or drug ever again. And my experience has not been relapse. I've been very, very lucky because when I came in, I went running with this stuff. I put as much effort into my recovery as what I did to drink and use drugs. Take you back to that 2021 experience. So my husband's gone off to hospital. My son's out on the street wanted, and I've lost my daughter. And now my head tells me there's no one around. You know, if you ever go into a home, a family home, you can hear like washing up going on, you can hear kids laughing, you can hear noise, grandkids running around, TVs on, radio on, doors banging. All of that stopped. I was left with myself, my head, and silence. And I don't know about you, but an addict, to be left in their own head and in silence, is absolute torture. So what I did back in that time in 2021 is I said to my friend, I'm going to detox off of all these substances and drugs that I'm taking. I'm going to do it myself. And I want you to lock me in. I want you to take my bank card. And when I call you and ask you for anything, I want you to tell me no. And you know what? For 5 days, I sat in this house on my own after that day in January 2021. You know, my mum was calling, friends was calling. I weren't taking no calls. I was violently sick. I was ill. My head was telling me to jump out the window. My head was telling me to get out the door. All the things that you go through your mind when you're going through this, you know, it was just like torture. It was absolute devastating. So 5 days I stayed in the house and I did that. I wouldn't advise anybody to detox on their own. I would go and get a professional, you know, a medical professional to help you because you can actually die. You can actually die. But I did it. And after them 5 days, let me tell you something, my best thinking took me back at the door for 2 years on cocaine and alcohol. The insanity that I'd done 5 days, that I'd achieved this and that I was clean for 5 days took me straight out the door. Again, my step one experience, you know, I will drink and use again unless I do this stuff. But in 2023, August 2023, to 26th of August 2023, I got my clean day. I'd been in the room since July for a month. I didn't have my camera on. I never listened. I never even partaked in the meeting at all. Like there was nothing in the meetings that I was getting. I was just completely scared. I didn't know nothing. And my sponsor at the time, you know, I followed her into recovery. She was using and drinking. And when she came into recovery, I loved her recovery. I liked what she was about. So I followed her into recovery. And she said to me, get this book, open it up. So I opened up the page. She said, what do you see? And I said, nothing. She said, that's what you know about recovery. Absolute nothing. I want you to remain teachable always and always have nothing. And you know what? I was like, okay, that's fine. So I'd got that step one, you know, the powerless and unmanageable. I realised there was a power greater than myself out there that could restore me to sanity. I then got that God-conscious contact and made a decision to turn my will and life over to the care of God as I understood him in step 3. That beautiful prayer that we say, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me, to do with me as thy wilt, relieve me of bondage yourself, that I may do better will. That beautiful prayer that we say, you know, I say that every single morning. I can't do this on my own. And Kate's will is an absolute shit show. Apologies for my swearing. I try not to swear today, but, you know, sometimes it comes out.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M. and me, Justin B., on Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M., streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
Step 4. I went into step 4 petrified, scared, and absolutely like terrified of all the things that was going to come out of it. And there's a word in step 4, fearless. And my sponsor said, break it down, fearless. Get your pen, get your paper, and get everything written down. And when you're finished, you're going to have a long conversation with me. You know, the conversation that I had with my sponsor in step 5, my sponsor and God, I was so fearful to get all the stuff down that I'd caused. I caused so much pain to my daughter. I caused so much pain to my son. You know, I caused a lot of pain internally to myself, and it was really painful. Writing these things down that I'd hurt my mum, I'd hurt my dad, I'd hurt my sister. You know, my sister cut me off completely from her life, not letting me go to see her children because it was too painful for her to watch what I'd done to myself. She's got 5 beautiful children, my sister. And, you know, I used to spend a lot of time with them down at her house. She's got a lovely country house. And I couldn't go and see them. That pain there for me to have to write that down, that I couldn't see them babies grow. And at the time, my sister's husband was in prison. She needed me and I couldn't be there for her, you know, and she went through that on her own because of my selfish needs, because, you know, I weren't thinking of anybody else. All I was thinking about was myself and my drugs and my using and what I could do. You know, that horrible, horrible stuff that we do when we're in this stuff. Yeah, it's just crazy, crazy, crazy behaviour. But I get to that stage of step 4, I get to write all this down, I read it in step 5. And that beautiful process of step 5 is such a relief, such a relief. When I'd got all of that out, I'll tell you the story what happened. After I'd got it out, my sponsor said to me, Kate, I want you to go and do a meditation and I want you to really stay calm and I want you to like think about what you've done because it's going to be a bit emotional because you've let a lot of stuff out that's been holding back. But Kate does her own will, doesn't she? Oh, I'm not going to need to do that meditation. I don't need to sit with myself. I'm not going to be upset. I've done this. I'm going to just go out. I'm going to go up to the Blackheath and I'm going to go and take myself out. And I feel, yes, I've accomplished something. I've done my step 5. Woohoo. You know, so I get in the car and I'm driving across this place, like the A2, if anyone knows it in London. It goes up and it goes round onto a roundabout, beautiful greens, a church. And as I was driving over, all of a sudden, these clouds just came over and I was stuck in traffic going up the hill and it was really pink and it was really fluffy and it was just like the clouds separated, the sunlight came through and I had this big emotional urge to just want to start crying. And I was like, what is going on here? You know, another spiritual awakening. The realisation that I'd got rid of all that stuff that I'd been building up and holding. I had to pull over my car at the next turning because I was crying so much that I'd released so much of the tears that had been blocked. Because I don't know about you, but I'm one of these people that crying for me, oh, that's a weakness. That shows a sign of weakness. You can't cry. The way I was brought up in my household is we don't cry, we're tough. You know, crying's a weakness. So when we come back into recovery, we get our emotions back. And that day on that heath, after I'd done my step 5, I sat there crying, like, but I didn't know what I was crying for. It was like I was crying because I was happy. I was crying because I was sad. I was crying because I had relief. I was crying because I was a shit mum, but now I'm crying because I'm a good mum. And it was just like, oh. And I called my sponsor and I said, I've just had to pull over on the motorway. I don't know what's going on. And she said, did you pray and did you meditate after that? And I said, no. And she was like, you need to take suggestion. Like, I tell you these things for a reason because you've just let out a big chunk of 30 years of shit. You know, we need this time to sit down and reflect on what it is that we've done. And yeah, ever since that day, I took her suggestions because you know what? People that are before us, these sponsors, they're armed with the facts. They're just somebody that's been through the book before us, someone that knows the steps that have done this stuff before us. So therefore, we need to listen to what it is that they do before us because they know through their experience, through their strength, through their hope. You know, I've had like a profound alteration to life through these steps. 6 and 7, I talk about it all the time. You know, I've got another meeting that Purdy set up with me and oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful meeting. I'm so into 6 and 7 that I'm this crazy that I had the tattoo 6 and 7 on my arm. And the reason I have that is because I need to remind myself that when I'm in these defects, that they need to be removed. You know, I am entirely ready to have these defects of character removed in 6. And then I'm humbly asking him in 7 to remove my shortcomings. What does that mean for me? That means for me that I need to check myself before I wreck myself during the day. You know, I'm as I am on screen when I'm off screen with my children. It wasn't always like that, you know. And when I'm in this 6, 6, 6, 6, 6 and things are going on, I've got to stop. I've got to pause. I've got to recognise. I need to sit and say, do you know what? Do I need to behave like this? Is this the way that this is going to work? There's a great book, JW, and it's The Traditions in Relationships. And I always use one of his filter, tradition 1, our common welfare should come first. And the way the function and the filter works is what I'm about to say going to cause a bigger separation or a greater unity? And I use this filter on a lot of stuff that I do today. You know, 6, 6, 7, right, okay, where do I need to be in this? Spiritual ping pong. Am I going to say something that's going to cause a bigger separation, a drama, and, you know, something bad? Or do I want to say something better that will cause a better unity? And I'll give you an example. My daughter was arrested the other day for robbery and I had to go to the police station at 2:00 in the morning. I was angry. I was hungry. I was tired. But you know what? I have to stop. I have to pause. I have to recognize that all of them defects, are they going to cause me a benefit in this situation? What do I need to do? If I go there screaming and shouting, if I go there doing this, what's going to be the outcome? So I have to pause. And in that moment, I have to realize that I need to come with love. She's growing up. She's learning. She's growing. She's evolving. By me screaming and shouting, it's going to do no good. But by me bringing her my experience as, you know, my previous stuff that I've done, this is what the outcome will be, Belle. This is where you're going to go, Belle. You know, I can have that calm moment as a mum and actually show her the light and show her the way that I do things. When we come in to do step 8, you know, after we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in the order that they are, we're ready at that point to be willing to make amends because we've worked through the process of our previous steps. Willing is the key word. I'm willing to make amends to people that I've upset previously because of my addictions, because of my using, because of my acting out behaviours, because of the way I was. Am I ready? Yes, I'm ready. Am I willing? Yes, I am. You know, we got to come into this stuff with no half measures because if we don't and we skimp around and we pick up bits and pieces that we want to do, we will go backwards. It's not going to work. We've got to keep moving forward. And the amends process. I had a diagram when I did mine. Now, maybe never. Who am I going to make amends to now? Mum, dad, sisters, people that are there, the people that was around me that I could go and make those amends to. The maybes, the people that I might not see, but I might bump into. They're on my maybes. Who was my nevers? My sponsor said to me, how free do you want to be? And I was just like, okay, right, how free do I want to be? So she said, the only way we put a never on there, Katie, is if it's going to cause more harm or injure somebody else. So, you know, I went off and I've done all these amends. And that, again, was another beautiful process. I feel a bit cheated out of my amends, to be fair, because when I went to approach my mum and dad, and people think that it's a sorry, my mum and dad don't want to hear sorry. They've heard sorry a million times over. Sorry I've not shown up for the kids. Sorry that I've not paid you back the money that I owe you. Sorry I've been an arsehole. Sorry I'm using drugs. Sorry I'm using drink. It will never happen again. And it does happen again because I'm an addict. My mum and dad don't want to hear sorry. But what they do want to hear is, how can I make an amends for the shit that I've caused you? What can I do to put this better? How can I behave to make this better? And you know, both my mum and dad, they both said to me, we don't want to know, it's fine. Just do what you're doing. Stay where you are. If you keep doing this stuff, we're proud of you. They see the action, you know, because I put the action in. There's a change. There's a change in my looks. There's a change in my behaviour. There's a change in the way I behave. My mum took my keys off me when I was in addiction because she didn't want me going into her house because she didn't know what I was going to take out of her house. And you know what? Today, my mum calls me and says, Granddad's got to go to hospital. Will you be there? Of course I will, Mum. I need this. I've got a parcel being delivered. Can you help me? Of course I can, Mum. You know, all of them things, they can now rely on me, which they couldn't before. My dad's on holiday. He's in Cyprus. He calls. My doorbell camera's gone down. Can you go round to my house and have a look at that for me? Of course I can. You know, straight away they can rely on me. They couldn't before. You know, the pain and hurt that I caused them. My mum used to say to me, I don't want to know. Don't call me. Don't say anything, because every single night when I put my head on that pillow, I dread having a phone call that you're going to be dead somewhere. The pain that my mum must have gone through for that. And you know what? I know now how that feels because I've got my husband in active addiction. So them thoughts and feelings and pain that my mum felt is now reflecting back on me because I'm going through the same thing. I know what I put my mum through today. Step 10, you know, cease fighting everyone or anything. And when we do go to it, recall from it like a hot flame. And what I mean by that is that, you know, when you get a lighter and you see the light and the flame, put your hand over it, it burns, move it away. This is the stuff that I have to do today. You know, inventory. How have I been during the day? Have I been selfish? Have I been judgmental? Have I been a dick? Do I need to change anything? Looking at that stuff in my nightly inventory. I write my nightly inventory on an app. It's not an app, actually. It's a website. It's www.rapid10.com. And what it is, you can open this app up. I do pen to paper also, but this is like a quick fix way. I put in who it is, what's gone on during the day, you know, the causes, if there's any causes. I write a little sentence about how my day's been so that the next day I don't have to carry any of this stuff forward. There's little tick boxes and it gives you every single character defect. So, you know, you can look through, where have I been selfish? Have I been like, dishonest? Because during the madness, I used to lie all the time. Today, I have to use my thinking and say, like, is this right what I'm doing? Is this right? Well, are my motives correct? And the way I do that is through God. I pray every day and ask God to correct my thinking, to sort out my motives. And then you've got the little boxes at the bottom which give you your assets, where I need to be. It also generates a step 7 prayer, that beautiful prayer that we ask for our defects to be removed. And is it going to stand in the way of my usefulness for others? I love this stuff, absolutely love this stuff. Step 11, sort through prayer meditation. I never had a God-conscious contact with God. My God was outside a hospital room when my son had been stabbed, or standing outside a courtroom when my husband's up on a charge saying, please God, don't let my husband go to jail for another 10 years. I can't cope with another sentence. Or, please God, don't let my son die. All them emergency prayers that we say, God did hear me and he did answer my prayers. And let me tell you this, right? God never gives us anything that we can't handle. That experience that I experienced back in 2021 of all them drastic things that happened in my life, my husband being stabbed, my son going on the run, my daughter being at the risk of being taken away from me, all of those things was working for me, which I didn't know at the time, to bring me into recovery. If A, B, and C didn't happen, I would not be here now. I can look at that and I can give thanks for that day. I can give thanks for that day, because if that didn't happen, it wouldn't have opened my eyes. I wouldn't have got these new lenses. I wouldn't have seen the beauty in this recovery, and I wouldn't have come into these rooms. I thank God today. At that moment in time when we got things that are happening and life shows up and everything feels heavy, everything feels like we can't cope, I always have that hope and courage, because I think, do you know what, God? You're either bringing me a lesson or you're bringing me a blessing. Since I've been in recovery, I have had so many lifey things to deal with. I am part of the No Matter What Club. And do you know what? No matter what, I used to step over my kids to drink and use. Doors get shut. And today, no matter what, do not need to use. I'm going to bring another little experience in here to you. So my daughter, Belle, one of the things that she said to me out of the amends process when I went to speak to her is just, Mum, one thing, I don't want doors being closed. So, I always used to close doors to use in the bathroom, or I'd close doors to use, and I had locks on the door. And I'd say to her, I'm having some time out, babe. I'm going to be in here for a little while. And then when I'd emerge from that room, I'd change. My face would change. My speech would change, because I'd put a substance in me. And she knew, she recognised. And that little girl was so scared. And she said to me the other month, please don't, no, during my amends, she said, please don't shut them doors, Mum. I don't like it. And I had a fellow come over and stay with me, Paul from the cartel, in May, just before we went to the beautiful convention in Bournemouth. And it's really funny, where Paul stayed is a male. And I went in my bathroom, I was getting dressed. And I thought, you know what, because Paul's here, I'm going to go into the bathroom, I'm going to lock the door. Now, Belle's in her other bedroom. So I've gone into the bathroom and I've locked the door and locked it. Now, that little girl run out of that room. She's 15 now, and she must have had a trigger. And she ran out the room and she banged on the door. She said, Mummy, why have you got the door locked? And I said, it's all right, Belle. I opened it straight away. And the horror on that girl's face. And I thought, you know what? I now know why she says to me, please don't shut them doors. She must have thought when I'd gone in there and she heard that noise must have triggered something in her little head to say, my mum's using. And you know what? I just said to her, it's all right, Belle. I said, it's fine. I said, I'm fine. I said, Paul's here. I was going to go and get dressed, and I didn't want to, have the door open because he's a male and he's here. And do you know what she said? Oh, all right, Mum, I get it. But it's stuff like that today that I recognise. The light switched on, I'm open, I love this stuff. Step 11, sort through prayer meditation. It's really important. When I get sponsees, the first thing I say to them is, don't wait to pray. We're not going to get to step 11 until you pray. Start praying today. Even if it's a little prayer when you're sitting on the toilet in the morning, thank you for waking me up. Because prayer life for me, when I first started out, it wasn't from the heart, it was from the head. I hadn't tuned into that portal. Now, guy in a fellowship, Bill, he's an American guy. He helped me get my conscious contact with God. The story behind it is, we've been having these conversations around God, around praying, around prayer life, around meditation. And he said to me one day, we'd been working with each other for a couple of weeks, going on and off of these little Zoom calls. And he had another couple of sponsors, and we'd pray together and we'd talk about stuff out the book. And he called me and he said, Katie, answer the call. And I'd just come off of a call with him. We'd just done a prayer group. And I said to him, Bill, I've just come off the phone to you. I said, what are you talking about? Answer the call. Bit aggy, like I've been on the phone to you. I've just come off. No, Katie, you're being called up. Answer the call. Oh my God. Call from God. It sank in. I was like, this is what he's on about. This is what people are talking about. God's conscious contact, the call from God. Ever since that day, something's changed in my recovery. Something different has happened. And again, the spiritual awakening that I talk of. You know, I've had many profound spiritual awakenings during recovery, and I'll tell you this other one. So I've had a bad day, and I like to ground myself. I like to walk in a park near me, and I like to take my shoes off, and I like to hug trees, because you know what? This is what I do today. I've got no shame in saying it. I love it. And, you know, my kids think I'm weird because I pray and I go and hug trees and I walk with no shoes on and all this stuff. But I don't care. I'm clean, I'm sober. And if it takes this stuff that I'm doing to have these spiritual moments, to live this spiritual life, to have this new life, I'll do this. So I'll come back from this park, I put my shoes on, I've had a bad day, and I'm questioning the God conscious stuff again. I'm like, you know what? Is there even a God? You know, you have them moments. If there is, why is this happening? So I walk back from this park, I put my flip-flops on, and I walk down a road that I walk down consistently all the time. And as I'm walking down, there's like brick wall, and they're coloured in with chalk, and there's a big yellow sign in the window. It says, "Do you believe?" with black writing. Now, I must have walked this road, I don't know how many times. My eyes are closed, aren't they? Because I'm using my head's down because I want to go and get drugs. I don't see the colour on the wall. I don't see the sign. This particular day I'm having that day, is there a God? So, you know, I stop at the wall, I look up, and it says, "Do you believe?" And I'm like, is this trying to tell me something? I think he is. So I stop and I start like looking at the wall, and I'll just sit there thinking, is this a sign? And behind me comes this lady. She's like Mrs. Doubtfire. She's got a little small bob, and she says, "Do you believe?" But now I haven't seen her, and I'm like, oh, because I'm thinking someone's talking to me from this sign. But as I turn round, I'm actually like, oh. So I says to the lady, I says, "Oh yeah, I think I do, you know. Yeah, I do, of course I do." And then she says to me, "What's the matter, my child?" Like really softly. And I start waffling, telling all my story. "I'm in recovery, my husband's in active addiction, I've had a bad day, I've been walking in the grass, I took my shoes off." "Whoa, calm down," she says. "Do you want to come in?" Oh, who goes into people's houses that you don't know? But I had that feeling of I'm going to be safe, I'm protected. So I walked into her house. As I walk in, it's like Aladdin's cave. She's got all these like dangly things that make noises, you know, wind chimes. She's got a stainless steel window with a big cross through the middle. We walk down these little stairs in this like Aladdin's cave, beautiful, beautiful home. And she pulls out 2 wooden seats and she says, "Sit down, do you want a drink?" So I say to her, "I'm in recovery, I can't drink." And then she says to me, "Do you want to pray together?" So I say, "All right then." And I go like this, hands together, head down. She says, No. We're going to hold hands. It's just a conversation." And I prayed with this beautiful woman in this house. And then all of a sudden she says to me, "Wait there. I'm just going upstairs." I'm like, this is really strange. She comes down from her flat, her house, and she brings me this beautiful international Bible. She says, "This is a gift for you. I want you to have it." And at the time, I didn't have a church. I never got connected to the power. I wasn't going to church. She says to me, "I'm going to church on Sunday. Love you to join me. My husband's the pastor and my son's one of the preachers." Oh my God, what's going on here? A spiritual awakening. Again, these profound spiritual awakenings that we have, that's an alteration to life. How powerful is this stuff? I've had many spiritual awakening through this journey. I love this stuff. I love being of service. You know, those who do not recover are people who cannot and will not completely give themselves to this program. You know, usually men and women are simply incapable of being truthful. I would urge anybody who's come into the rooms that wants a new way of life, that wants to put others first, that wants to talk differently, that wants to have behaviours differently, that wants to stop acting selfish, that wants to give up drink and drugs, to come in, sit down, listen, get a sponsor, have an open mind, be honest, be willing, the how, you know, honest, open willingness, do all of that stuff, follow what your sponsor says, and you will have a spiritual awakening the same as I have. I'm Katie. I'm a grateful recovered addict today. Thank you for listening.
Hey Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Reco12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Reco12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
Oh, sorry for the background noise. I unmuted. Boom, there she is. 18 people here. Strong recovery, spiritual awakening. From the lowest steps to the spiritual hilltops, doing service, hugging trees at one with God and his creations, serving others. Let's see if we got some questions in the chat. Definitely we should get some applause in there. Thank you for your service, Katie. Trials and tribulations with the husband, with the kids. It's not a cakewalk. Katie, she's asking, what is a spiritual cartel?
Okay, so Spiritual Cartel is my home group. It's on every single day from 8 p.m. Same link, same password. I can put it into your chat group for you. And it is my home group. We have different speakers from all around the world. We have a spinning wheel on a Saturday. We have book study. And it is the most amazing home group that I could have landed in. And I urge anybody who wants to get solution-based recovery to head to the cartel. It is a fantastic online platform and you will not be disappointed. Thank you.
Other questions, just unmute yourself and jump on in, people. Let's get some other questions going here. All right, getting a lot of props here in the chat. Okay, people, ask some questions. You have a woman here with a message of depth and weight. Who asks questions? Who's sponsoring people? Having issues with their sponsees? Who guys having issues getting through their own 12 steps? Come on, let's throw something at her.
Oh, can we just unmute and come in?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you just got me. That was a bit of a god shot, wasn't it, about sponsees that you're having problems with. I recently started sponsoring, and I've got a girl who's up to just going to start step 4. I can feel that there's something not right, but I can't put my finger on it. I've been banging 417 acceptance, and it's just not going in. What can I do?
Remember that we're just another addict. So all we can do is bring our experience, strength and hope. That's the way that I sponsor, is that I will tell my sponsors from sponsees, from my experience, my strength and my hope, the way that I've done things. It tells us in the book, not to lecture, not to persuade, because we can spoil an opportunity later. And that means, if you've got someone that's not open, honest, willing to do the work, there's nothing that you can do about it. I sit back and I let them find their way. I can guide, I can suggest, and I can use the book, bring my experience. However, it's like that horse to water saying, isn't it? You can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. So you know what? Sometimes you've just got to take that little step back, let them find their way, because when they're ready, they'll pick up that pen and execute that step 4. That's the best thing that I could suggest for you, Emma. Thank you for your question.
Oh, thank you, Kate. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Katie's the master here, but don't forget, most of them will not make it. We're going to lose most people we get on the phone with. Most people who reach out to us, most of us will not make it. So don't let that deter you. I found that when we start sponsoring in the beginning, we get really emotionally attached and codependent and all that. But if we know ahead of time that most of them are not going to make it, it's like, okay, let's see if this person wants us with the desperation of a drowning man. Let's check them out. Let's see if we're a fit. Sometimes I've heard Cameron F. talk about this from Spiritual Gangsters and Cocaine Anonymous. Sometimes we don't have chemistry with someone. The book doesn't say, we should force feed ourselves and make us be on the phone with people we don't vibe with or irritate us. So, you just want to go for it. And you want to get enough people, reach out to enough people, get started with enough people, knowing that one or two of them will stick. And don't forget, the Big Book tells us that it's a waste of time to work with someone who doesn't really want it. And we may be letting the addict who is desperate, like, man, we may let him drown when we're working with someone who's not really serious. So don't be afraid to walk away. You want to add anything to that, Katie? You want to see if we have another question?
You know what? There's a beautiful analogy about the starfish. And again, I've got the tattoo of the starfish, and it's about lots of starfish going across the beach. They come up onto the beach, onto the sand, and the sun is pelting down, burning these starfish. They're dying. The starfish are the addicts, yeah. And you've got a few sponsors going around picking up these starfish, trying to save them and chuck them into the water. There's always going to be a million addicts that rock up onto that beach. We can't save everybody, but we can try. And that beautiful analogy, I always actually have a laugh and a joke with one of my fellas, and he calls me a starfish. And I've got this beautiful chain that Vanessa, who's on there, got me. I love the starfish analogy. If anybody's interested in it, it is actually in Cameron F's workbook shop at the back of the book. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to come in and unmute?
Erin, alcoholic addict. I just want to say thank you for the meeting. I'm really grateful. I have to jump off now because I'm on holiday and I've missed breakfast, so I've got a few minutes left. But I just want to come in and say it really helped me, and I'm very happy. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Come on every Friday. Bring more fellows about a recovery story. Join us. We want you to speak. Katie, I'm telling you to send me more of your sponsees and more of your fellows to share. And okay, question from Brandy. Brandy, you share more about being really free from resentment.
You know what? To be free from resentments, is that something that can actually ever happen? Because resentments pop up all the time, but it's how I deal with the resentment, like the way I behave to behave in the day to not have them resentments coming. So, it tells me on page 417 of this beautiful book, and I can go quote it for you. Just bear with me a second. So, I read it like this with resentments, because resentments for me is usually when I get disturbed by somebody. So I take myself to the acceptance page, and this is what I read, and I change the name to myself. When Kate is disturbed, it's because Kate finds some person, place, thing, or situation, or some fact of Kate's life unacceptable to her. And then Kate can find no serenity meaning peace, until she can accept, the word accept, that person, place, or thing, or situation being exactly as it's supposed to be at that moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until Kate could accept her alcoholism, her addiction, she can't stay sober unless she accepts life completely on life's terms and can't be happy. Kate needs to not concentrate so much on what needs to be changed in the world, but what needs to be changed in her attitudes. That God conscious contact again. Me, let go, let God. I can't, he can. And this is the way I sort of deal with my stuff. Pen to paper, yeah, I do that. I do a lot of stuff pen to paper, and I write down the things. I don't have as many resentments today as what I had when I came into the fellowship. I had loads. Every day was a resentment. This person's pissing me off, that person's pissing me off. But today I look at myself. Why is that person pissing me off? What is it that I see in that person that's reflecting on myself? Because usually when I'm judging someone else, it's because I'm judging myself. Pointing fingers, 3 fingers back. I just need to have that pause, and I just need to look at my behaviours. So, that's how I sort of deal with the resentments today. And I try not let resentments build up. As soon as something's cropping up, step 10, get on with another fellow, go through that, work through that. What is it that you're doing? What is it that needs to be corrected? Where's my part in it? What am I doing? Why are my behaviours like this? That's why we have step 10s, and we have that beautiful conversation that we can have with our God, crew, which is your God squad, 5 people in your palm that you can pick up that phone to at any point and have that discussion with. Thank you.
Hello? Can I come in? Do I just come in? Hi, I have two questions, if that's okay. Well, the first one is, Katie, thank you so much for your share and everything you do for me and everybody else. And I was wondering, what is one thing that has surprised you the most about yourself in this journey that you just never imagined? Like, is there something that you go, I can't believe that about myself? Yeah. Is there something? And the other is something you've kind of asked me. If your recovery had a theme tune, what would it be today?
Do you know what? Strength springs to mind in my recovery. The strength that I've got is amazing, and I don't know where it comes from. And I say I don't know where it comes from. It comes from God. So I do know where it comes from. It comes from God. But the strength that I've had with the life experiences that I've been dealt with through recovery on my journey, strength, 100 million% strength. And in terms of a theme tune for my recovery, do you know what? People are going to laugh, right? But I always say it to another fellow of mine. Has anybody ever heard the? Well, you will not have heard it, but it's that Rocky theme tune. Sorry, but that's the one that always like springs to mind, and I always just like feel like I'm trudging along and running, and that tune's always in the background. It just gives me that power behind the recovery. Yeah, thanks Vanessa for your question. It's funny.
Hey Reco12 Spearheads, if our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Reco12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at reco12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Reco12 Spearhead.
That is a great question. Possibly the most clearly living in the sunshine of the spirit was such a fun question. Okay, how do you balance program and service with family when kids resent? I think might be a typo there. Resent phone calls, meeting. Oh, when kids resent, there isn't a typo. When kids resent phone calls, meetings, etc.
You know what? My kids are older, so they can do their own thing. Two of them have left home and got their own places, and Bells is like 15, so she does her stuff during the day. But I have a balance. So when I wake in the morning, the first thing I do is obviously prayer, ask God to direct my thinking. On Awakening, page 86, bit of meditation, that grounds me. Straight away, I'm in the zone. Next thing I'll do is I'll do a gratitude list. I fire that off to my sponsor. Takes about 5-10 minutes, either writing it down or sending it to her on a text. Once I've done that, I go and set up my day. What does Belle need from mum today to get through her day? Okay, so Belle's not at school, she's homeschooled. So I set her stuff for homeschool. She has her little desk where she works. That's her. I go off about my day job. I've got a job, I work in an office, so I go and do my work. During the day when I'm working, I'll still pick up calls from sponsees, I'll still pick up texts, and I'll be flying them through. And then during that moment, I'll get my diary and I'll get it at the beginning of the week. I open it up. Who needs to have a sponsor call this week? Set my Zoom calls. Then I need to look at, right, where's my service this week? Okay, I've got service on a Monday, I've got service on a Wednesday, service on a Thursday, and service on a Saturday. They're in the evening. So I can be home, I can be present, I can be mum, I can still do service. And then in terms of like taking phone calls and doing meetings, how much time do we spend when we're in the madness, going out to get drugs, going out to keep running off to put substance in our system? If I could do that when I was in the madness, I spent more time doing that over the course of 30 years. This recovery stuff is easy, just putting in the routine, planning, having that plan of action. I'm ADHD, so I do a lot of things at once, spinning wheels and stuff is part of my superpower with ADHD, that I can do that. However, just having the balance of just a diary, a desk diary, a pad, a paper, having everything written down. And whenever everything gets a little bit too much, is just bring it back to prayer and meditation. So, if I feel overwhelmed, that I've got too much going on, I can stop, I can pause. And also people in the fellowship, they're the most kind, genuine people. If you can't show up for a commitment or you've got too much on, just have a conversation because they will understand. I hope that helps.
Did she break up? Did we lose her? Or is it me? Can I be heard?
Yeah, I can hear you, Karen.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost you. Did you just finish your thought?
Yeah, I finished the question.
Okay, fine. So you're saying that I thought you were mid thought. Fine. So you're saying, yeah, a conversation can be had. If it's too stressful, there's too much going on. We can always ask. Yeah, I get that. I recently had an opportunity to kind of take a vacation and do work and take my kids with me, and I really wanted to just go. Then I was like, wait a minute, just ask your boss. And I said, do you mind if I take another day here? She's like, no, enjoy the break. But it's like just that one sentence, that one bit of communication of people, helping people understand us and knowing that they're not out to get us. Okay, we have 2 more minutes left. Do we have any last minute burning desire questions? Sorry.
If I haven't got a question, I'm Bridie Alcoholic. If there were no more questions, I just want to say that was just wonderful, Katie. Yeah. I've had my son off school for a week, and I've kind of been on and off the WhatsApp and everything, and I'm here in the bed with my coffee, enjoying a bit of peace. I thought, right, just go on your WhatsApp. Went on Awakening, saw this meeting, joined it. That's God at work there, I think, because I needed to hear all of that. It was just, yeah, you're wonderful. You really are. And I'm so the opposite of you with the crying, because as soon as you started speaking, I was crying. Can't beat it. I must have cried 3 times during that. I also had the cat ice cream bring a bird in. So I've got feathers all over this little studio place we're in at the moment. So that was a sudden weird distraction. But yeah, wonderful, Katie. I love you. I really do. Oh my goodness. The passion for it. I love it. I love to hear it. Thank you so much.
Okay, we can take one more question, one more comment. Last chance. If not, I'm going to ask Katie to go ahead and pray us out.
Thank you so much, Karen and Katie. Really incredible recovery and help and guidance. Can you share? I'm just starting on sponsoring. I just got my first sponsee in Spiritual Gangsters Way, but I've sponsored in the past. But can you share a little bit about healthy sponsoring and how to do it? Thanks.
So when I first come in, this was one of my proper panics that, I'm going to have somebody's life in my hands. Am I going to give anything to them that could possibly kill them? It was something that really, really worried me. And my sponsor was just like, listen, if you just take that book and you read from 1 to 164 of those pages, and you're going through the book and you're highlighting and you're doing what we've done, then you can't fail on what you're going to say. We don't give personal relationship advice. We're not medical practitioners to give medical advice on medications, any meds that people may be on. Financial advisor, we're not financial advisors. So, we don't advise on that. Criminal matters, we don't advise on that. We can direct, if anything's about suicidal thoughts, we give, those platforms that do have the experience around that. There's 2 leaflets. One of them is responsible sponsorship. It's on the CA website. And the other one is irresponsible sponsorship. Also, on the Cameron F website, he has something about sponsorship that would guide you and help you through that. I found that I pray in all the time when I work with sponsees. So I pray with set aside prayer. I don't know nothing. And then I pray out with, the serenity prayer, always bringing God into the room. Yes, I get a relationship with my sponsees, and some of them have become really great friends. And then we have a conversation separate. And what my sponsor used to do to me is she used to say to me, I'm now speaking to you as a sponsor. Or if we was having a conversation, she'd say, Kate, I'm now talking to you as a friend, you know, so we'd have that difference between sponsorship and friendship. In my experience, sponsorship has been a growth for me. There's nothing like a community of working with, you know, another alcoholic, another addict. And I learn so much when I'm taking them. They help me more than I help them. But I would look at that responsible sponsor versus irresponsible sponsor. And also, I always have the dictionary of words and stuff through the big book, because sometimes, even though I've read this book probably about 5 or 6 times over, maybe even more than that, I come up with words sometimes that I go, oh, I haven't actually seen that word and I don't actually know. So I like to always remain teachable. And if I don't know something, I just say I don't know. Let me ask my sponsor. If she don't know, she'll ask her sponsor. You don't need to know everything. You know, we're just here to guide through that book the same way we've been taken through that book. But I also use the Cameron F. work sponsorship document always, always, always in my sponsoring. That with the blue book, aligned, parallel, amazing stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks
I
a
just
lot.
Can
Where do you
can
get the
she
responsible sponsor sponsorship? Where do you get the where do you look that up? This responsible sponsoring, responsible sponsoring.
They're on the CA website. So, you know, you've got the literature. There's literature links and you can actually go onto that. I have got a copy of it. I'll put my number in the chat for you guys. And if anyone wants to know anything about, you know, what I've said today, I'm more than happy to have a conversation or support or help guide. Just let me know. I'm going to put my number into the chat, guys.
Amazing. Thank you. I think just before you, I think you wanted to hop in there. I just wanted to really take a second to acknowledge Brian D. Way to go for getting through your 12 steps and getting the sponsoring. I know you've been around and you've been doing service for a long time. So, you know, a big round of applause to our sister Brian D. And we're here for you with that. Amazing. Amazing. You're going to be rocketed to the next dimension sponsoring. And thank you for all your work on this meeting too. I have some background here on my phone. I have an emergency medical system on my phone. So just pray us out, Katie. I just want to mute myself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Karen, for inviting me today. It's been amazing. Just give us a little moment to just bring God in the room. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred I may bring love, that where there is wrong I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord I may bring harmony, that where there is error I may bring truth, that where there is doubt I may bring faith, that where there is despair I may bring hope, that where there are shadows I may bring light, that where there is sadness I bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it's by self-forgetting that one finds, it's by forgiving that one is forgiven, and it's by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.